Hey, look what showed up today. The rear rack for a Rad Mini. This is Dave with Dave and Diane throwing caution to the wind. Today, the rear rack for Diane's Rad Mini showed up from FedEx. So I already have the Onway rack on my bike. So I'm going to install the one from Rad. We're going to compare it to the Onway rack. We're going to share it with you. So hang on. Alright, so this is what comes in the box from Rad with their rear rack. I can already tell you, it looks a lot less complicated than what came with the Onway rack, even though the Onway rack wasn't a big deal, but it comes with your screws for mounting. Hopefully the washers are the right size. They were not the right size with Onway. They give you some zip ties to tidy things up, and they come with the extension cable to relocate the brake light, which we had to buy separate when we bought the one from Onway. It did not come with the Onway rack. Now it's only $10 from Amazon, so it wasn't a big deal because the Onway rack was less expensive even with the $10 extension that we had to buy. So I'm going to share all those numbers with you, but I wanted to show you what came out of the box. Now let me go get this installed. Alright, so I installed the Rad rack on Diane's bike. Let me give you a brief overture of what I went through. So the first thing I did, of course, is take off the original brake light location. And I still say if you loosen both up, tilt the brake light forward or actually back, you can get to those two screws easier to make that happen. Then you disconnect the brake light. Now I mounted the Rad rack. I like the way it fits down real close to the fender. Actually fits down closer than the Onway rack, and I'll show you that a little bit here in the video. And the Rad rack did come with the extension cable, as I mentioned earlier. And here's the relocation of the brake light, okay? So all that's great. Now what's nice is it's all one piece. Where the Onway had extensions that go on both sides here. You had adjustable rods that went up in here, which you had to toy with. A couple extra fixtures you had to toy with, which again I'll show you in the video here in a minute. But even though this is all one piece, it was a pain in the keister to install. Every review I've read so far, well, pretty much all of them, have mentioned how easy the screws are to strip out. And I'm going to show you. So here's one. The head stripped out on this one here. So I couldn't get it in all the way, so I need to take this out, go to the hardware store, and get a new screw to go in here, which isn't a big deal, but what a pain. But it is on there nice and solid right now, so I'm not going to worry about it today. And then I stripped another one over here. This one's stripped. Now I was able to put a pair of pliers on the head, and I screwed it in far enough to where it's not loose at all. It's not going to go anywhere. So if I don't go get those screws in a couple of days, I'm not going to worry about it. But what a pain putting that thing on. So even though the Onway rack had more pieces to deal with, I actually had less trouble with the screws. All right, now I'm going to put them side by side and show you both racks. So before we go any further, let me take a minute and show you what we got in the Onway box. And then we'll come back and do the comparison. I also want to ask that if you haven't given the thumbs up yet, you got anything out of this video at all, how about taking a minute right now and give us that thumbs up? We really would appreciate it. Alright, so I've already unboxed this just to make things simple. Let me show you what you get coming out of the package on the Onway rack. So there you got the rack itself. Now, that's pretty lightweight. Feels really well constructed though, but it is lightweight, which is great when you're using an e-bike or any bike at all. And then you have a bunch of brackets. So I think this is the ones that's going to go down and mount down by the wheel. These, I believe, are going to make it adjustable. We're going to take the tail light off, and then we can adjust how level the rack sits, right? I think those two pieces are going to fit right up in here, and that'll be up next to the seat. And these, I'm not positive yet, nor these. And then here's your nuts and bolts, and of course the instructions. And they do supply you with the wrenches I guess you're going to need. So, okay, first things first. The instructions tell you all the steps, but the pictures, if you're a picture person like I am, the pictures are very dark, very small, and the instructions aren't really that clear, even though it's not really that hard of a project, but the instructions just aren't that clear. And you're going to have some extra parts. So another thing that really got to me is every single washer, I think I had 1 or 2 washers that were the right size. Every other washer was too small. So you have to get new washers, keep that in mind. A couple extra parts, not sure. And this was the original brake light bracket. Now, all right, let me try to show you these racks side by side. So here's a top view. This is the Rad Rack. A couple more supports here in the middle than on the Onway rack. So to begin with, the main differences. So here it's one piece, screws in other than the stripped out screw. On the Onway, you have bars here that you have to install here. Then you have to put these brackets underneath the Onway rack, right down here, which took me a minute to figure out, nothing crucial. But those will adjust how level this is on top of the fender. So wasn't a real big deal, not quite as clean as the Rad Rack, right? And on the Rad Rack, this is all one piece right here. So on the Onway, you have this extension. So you got a screw here, a screw there, which isn't quite as clean. Now, as far as how far it comes off the fender, if I was to lower this down one more screw hole right here, I could come down just a smidgen. Not as much to make it as low as the Rad Rack, but it'll bring it down a little bit. I'm not going to mess with it. I think it's just fine for me, no big deal. But I guess if you care, the Rad Rack is a little bit cleaner looking right there. Let me show that to you again. Right there, see? So the Onway rack is actually a little longer. So that might be important to some people. Actually, I think our bags might fit better on this than on the Rad Rack. But again, so close together. Now on the Rad Rack, there are some screw holes right here in 4 spots. I guess you could mount a rack, some kind of basket to this rack solidly, to where this one does not have that. So everything has to be Velcroed on. So anyway, that gives you an idea what that looks like. Like I said, it was nice that the Rad Rack came with the extension for the brake light, but I'm going to put what the prices were, but I think we paid like $93 for the Rad Rack. I'll put it in the screen what we paid for the Onway, but the Onway was certainly cheaper, even buying the extension. But we're talking maybe $10 difference, maybe $15, not a big deal. So I guess you need to be the judge on what you would rather have. Like I said, we ordered this because Rad has always been out of their racks. Everybody complains about it, and I just didn't want to wait. So we ordered one to see how we liked it, and it was just fine. And if it wasn't for the fact that Rad finally got some of their racks in, I would have bought another Onway and not worried about it. But there you go. Now I'm going to throw a couple of bags on this, on both bikes, and we'll show you how it looks with the bags on it. Actually, I've already had a bag on this bike, and you don't even notice any of this stuff here. So once you have a bag on there, I don't think you'd notice which one you even had. All right, so I mounted the Rock Brothers bags on both bikes. From this angle, if you didn't know the difference, what to look for, you couldn't tell which rack was which. Let me get a little closer. So now obviously it becomes apparent because you can tell by the extra screws over here compared to the Rad with one screw. That's the difference, but you know what? They look pretty close. There's a side view with the Onway rack. Here's a side view with the Rad Rack. Let me go around the other side. Here's a view with the Rad Rack. It's getting a little bit dark this evening, so I apologize for that. And here's a side view with the Onway rack. You have a little bit more rack showing back here on the Onway rack. So maybe if you want to mount something back here, I don't know. Personally, I might mount another camera back here. So we're riding trails. I have a camera pointing backwards. That's a plus. You can still do that with the Rad Rack too, but I don't think most people really care about that. All right, there you go. Rad Rack, Onway rack. Alright, well hopefully this video helped clear up any questions you might have on the differences between the Onway rack and the rear rack directly from Rad. Knowing what I know now, having had my hands on both of them and installing both of them, with the little difference in price, I don't know which way I would jump. I guess if Rad was out of them and I really wanted to have a rear rack, I'd order the Onway rack directly from Onway or from Amazon. I wouldn't worry about it either way. They're both good racks. Once you put a bag on the back, you really don't know the difference. So you be your own judge. So again, hopefully this helped you a little bit. If it did, we would appreciate a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. We have a lot more to come. As always, have a great day. We'll see you in the next video.